What's up? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing some diff welding. So I've got Jackson Mead, a friend of mine, also teammate with Wild Running. He has a BMW that's a 135i that has a turbo LS in it. Well, had a little issue with the diff that was in it, and there's no fluid in it. Locked up on the dyno, thing is trashed. So we got a couple diffs, just regular, they're independent Ford Explorer diffs that are open, and we're gonna weld them up. So I gotta get them out of the truck, get them all cleaned up, knock the old seals out of them, do a few things, and you're coming along with me. All right, so now that you know what we're doing, I gotta unload these diffs, so let's get at it. All right, so I got the diff that's locked up. I got it sitting on some jack stands here right next to me. That way I can get the bushings out that we need to reuse. They're solid bushings. And just have an idea of what this thing looks like, I guess. Let me just show you. So this thing was re-geared and there's a spool in it. What we figured out is I think the pinion bearing is actually locked up in there. This thing was an awful smell, but basically what we have to do, actually here, look. So see all that? That's all metal. I think it's from the bearing, because the gears still kind of move, but it doesn't move down in there. I'm sorry, the ring gear moves. So like the bearings in here are probably trashed, but the pinion doesn't move. So that doesn't work. Yeah, you got all this material in here. This is the cover for this diff. Now we got these weld plates from Rise Fab down in Tennessee. They are specifically for an 8.8. So they are cut out, CNC cut out, and they are bent so that they just drop right in. I'm gonna get this cover off and start cleaning, but we've got to take the seals out because I got some new seals as well, factory Ford. Get those in there. All right, so these bushings also have to come out so that we can put these aluminum solid bushings in there. I have a feeling that it's going to take a lot of work to get these out. Probably an air hammer, if I had to guess. Jackson tried to knock the aluminum bushings out and he couldn't get those out, but I'm gonna give it a go myself and probably with an air hammer, see if I can get them out, heat up the housing a little bit, get them to drop out. But first of all, we gotta get this first diff completely apart, make sure we're ready to go with getting it welded up, and then we can go for everything else. So we got to get it apart before we can put it together. Well, that almost worked nicely. So, broken bolt in there, and it is actually corroded so much that the cover doesn't want to come off. So, this might be a project for a different day because we're gonna have to fix that broken bolt anyways. So, the other diff, I'm pretty sure he's had the cover off. I thought it was this one because it was out of the box, but I guess we're gonna check this one now. Fingers crossed. All right, that definitely was the one that had come off before. So there's a little bit of residual that can't be drained in these things because the drain is not quite to the bottom, but gotta hose this. We're gonna have to hose this thing out. But you can see here, so when you hear a welded diff, some people will just weld in these corners. This is what's called the spider gears. And you see there, so that's why you get the one wheel peel, because one tire is going to get all the power as soon as it breaks loose, because there's nothing slowing these spider gears down. Now, we're going to slow them down with this guy right here. It's going to drop in, hopefully, supposedly, unless it goes like this, might go like this. I guess we'll see. I don't know. We're going to play with this, but basically, we're going to weld these together. Go from there. So obviously the first thing we need to do is get this thing cleaned out, cleaned up, no more oil dripping out of it the whole time. I hate gear oil, I'm sure you guys do too. Probably get the bushings taken out of it and basically prep this thing to just go back together all in one shot. So gonna get it cleaned, get the bushings out of it, and then work on figuring out these weld plates. They're supposed to work, we'll see. Okay, so the next thing we have to do is get these seals knocked out. I'm going to use a chisel. Looking at the new ones, they're actually just O-ringed. So I think they should be able to just knock out pretty easily with a chisel. So let's do that. All right, so I got the old ones out, just using a small chisel and working my way around slowly. The new ones aren't O-ringed as much as they have like a bead of like a glue of some sort, acting kind of like an O-ring. So I guess once you disrupt it, it's almost like Loctite, that pre-done Loctite that you have seen on bolts. I think it's going to be something like that. So once you knock it in, it's got like a little added layer of protection, I guess. So, like I said, we got I'm not putting the new seals in. So don't put the new seals in yet until you are completely done. That'll be the last thing you do. So, now I will say that this diff, whoever shipped this thing, must have selected the wrong size plug at first and knocked it all the way down into the spider gears. So I had to pick that out. Just make sure that there's nothing in there that shouldn't be in there, that you are not putting in there before you go doing all this stuff. So I need to get the bushings out, which I'm going to have to get the air hammer, I think. All right, I had all kinds of things happen that I didn't have the camera on, thankfully, because I would have probably panicked more. Quick reminder, even though this is something that I know, if you're going to use a torch and you filled the back of this thing with brake clean, you know, maybe blow it out with air first. Had a little situation where I was trying to heat up the bushings to knock them out. Yeah, had a little drip on the pan here and light up. So that was fun, a little flash fire, that was exciting. Now the next part I just showed you guys, wasn't explaining myself at all, but basically to get these bushings out, What I was hoping for was to just knock the edges in and then come from the bottom because there is a lip. However, the housing is super corroded. So what I'm going to do is I heated up the sleeve, which released the rubber, and I drove the sleeve out. Now I'm going to take the little Sawzall and go from either side, basically out and out, and cut the sleeve basically through, if not all the way through. It's not going to hurt anything. You're using, you know, aluminum bushings back in this thing. So that's what I got to do. I also, to be able to get some of the rubber material out of there, I used a big drill bit and basically just plunged it in and out of the rubber, and just got rid of some of the rubber that was in these bushings. You've seen people like burn them out and stuff, and I wasn't planning on catching anything on fire today, even though I did. So now I'm going to put you guys back down. I'm going to cut through these bushings with this little handheld Sawzall, little guy, like the smaller one. You can use a body saw. You could even use a hacksaw if you take the blade out and basically turn it backwards and just go in it, but, you know, feed the blade through where the sleeve used to be. So you can use a hacksaw. Don't think you need all these fancy tools to get these things out of here, but let's get these sleeves cut, hopefully faster than everything else I've been doing. All right, well, that was a lot. But see right there where I cut the slit? That's what allowed this thing to release. I don't think this thing would have come out without doing that. This thing is really corroded. So dissimilar metals, you got a steel bushing sleeve and an aluminum housing. So that just went all wrong. We need to clean it up and get the bushings out of the old diff. So let's start cleaning. All right, I think that's as good as these are going to get. They were pretty bad, so we got to get these bushings, the aluminum bushings, out of the broken diff so that we can put it in this diff, and then we will go upstairs with Dad, weld these plates in, and should be good to go. Put it together. What are you doing?
Well, this is part of the gas pump that I found, and it was flat, and we're trying to make it conform to something over there. Let's go see. See, the gas pump, I mean, it probably needs to conform to, you know, around the glass, see? Yeah, see, like about this big. I need to go a little bit more. Oh, yeah. For sure. I mean, it don't have to be that tight, but it needs to be this tight, I think, Roger. We'll go with this curve. Who knows?
All right, so obviously we're up here with Dad. He's messing with his gas pump and got the diff that we're going to be welding on this stand that Dad actually made to hold his belly tank, which we can go through that sometime. Back when we were doing land speed racing at Bonneville. But what we need to do now on this diff is to wash it again, and then we can lay the plates down in there and use Dad's big MIG, big Miller MIG, to get this thing all welded up so that it's stuck forever and they don't, Jackson's not going to have to deal with it cracking the welds and coming loose on him. The car should make a lot of power, so got to make sure this thing holds up. All right, well, these little plates just drop in here like this. This one fits okay, but really, to be honest, it's just filling it up so you guys can see down in there. And basically, you'll just weld all the way around everywhere you can get, and then you'll roll it over and do the same thing with the other plate. So let's get welding. All right, so plates are in, welded it. I'm gonna let this thing cool off and come back. I cleaned it all out just now, but it still needs to cool off. You guys will notice whenever you go to turn this thing over, it's gonna feel really gritty. So after spraying little metal pellets everywhere from welding this thing with a MIG, you are gonna notice this thing's gonna feel super gritty. My suggestion is to flush this thing with cheap gear oil at least twice. Run it like an event, or if you're going to go to like a weekend, if this is going in a weekend car or whatever, driver, run it a little with just cheap gear oil in it. Flush it and do that 2 or 3 times. That should get a majority of the little metal pellets out of there, to where you don't have to worry about it. That way you can put something nice in it and just beat on it. So let it cool down. We can get the new front bushings in, reseal the back cover, and then this thing can be filled up after we put the stub axles in. So this thing has conversion stub axles. So, yeah. Let's let this thing cool down. All right. So, we got the diff welded. What's next? Clean it out. Do your best that you can clean it out. Obviously, you don't have to go crazy. Your biggest thing is going to be just hose it out really good and then clean it out with brake clean, blow it out, and then it's time to put the output shaft seals back in it, the new ones. You want to use new ones, don't use the old ones. And then you can clean off the back cover and glue it on. You don't necessarily need a gasket. This one did have a gasket on it. I don't know why, because it was glued and gasketed. So I think that was just somebody trying to fix this thing for some reason, trying to get it to stop leaking, whatever they did. It does not need a gasket. I think it's meant to be just glue. What I use when gluing stuff is Permatex, the right stuff. You don't have to worry about it. It's definitely going to seal. It's good for all chemicals, and you don't have to use a bunch of it, and it's going to seal up. So next step, get the output shaft seals in it, and then we can seal it up. All right, so hopefully you guys are on the same page as I am. Just got the rear cover all torqued. I reused the original bolts and torqued them. They said 15 to 25 foot-pounds from what I could find. So that's what I did. Good and tight is usually a good, don't use a gigantic ratchet, but make a few passes over these in a crisscross pattern. That's why it allows the glue to squish out just a little bit. And that way you can slowly torque the thing down and not like break a bolt off or break an ear or crack the case, because that's something that can happen. Just take it nice and slow, go crisscross with a shorter 3/8 ratchet, and just rock and roll with the thing. And like I said, if you want to torque them, look up the torque spec. I think it said 15 to 25 foot-pounds. I went a little bit higher than that, but that's just because I know the bolt would take it. So really nice squish around the outside. You don't want to like put a ton of RTV on this rear cover because it'll just squish inside the diff, and then you got to deal with that. So lastly will be the new diff bushings, and I've got to get them out of the other diff that locked up. So let me get those out, and then we'll press these in, put the stub axles in, and this thing's buttoned up and ready to go. All right, as you guys can see, we got the two solid bushings pressed in, and all that's left is the aftermarket output shafts. On a standard 8.8 or for an Explorer, the axle itself has the stub that goes inside the diff. So on this, it's a conversion for a BMW, and yeah, so we're gonna get those knocked in, and that's that. All right, it's that simple. If you are putting an 8.8 in your BMW, that's it. It's welded up and ready to go into Jackson's 135. I will be shooting some footage of it on the dyno, but that's going to be in a different video where I'll cover the whole car, introduce Jackson, and then we can, you've probably seen him cruising around. So hope this video has been helpful for you guys. Stay tuned for more content, and drop any comments below if I did something wrong. And I guess I'll see you guys soon. Bye.